Hi everyone, in this tutorial we are going to talk about loops in C#. Loops are used when we want to execute particular block of the code multiple times. So let me quickly declare the variable called iterator, which is equal to 0. And let's start with while loop. So we need a while keyword and we need to specify condition. If iterator is less than, let's say, 5. We want to print out the value of the iterator, and we also need to increment the value of the iterator by 1. This part of the code is equal to something like this. Iterator is equal to iterator plus 1. So how it works? It's checking if value of iterator is less than 5. Value of iterator at the beginning of the execution is equal to 0. So if 0 is less than 5, we are going to print out the value of the iterator. So we are expecting to see 0 at first execution of the while loop. And then we are going to increment the value of the iterator by 1. So second iteration, we have iterator with value 1 because we increment that iterator as a part of the first iteration. So we have 1. If 1 is less than 5, we are going to do exactly the same as in previous iteration and so on. When iterator got 5 as a value, we'll check if 5 is less than 5, which is not correct. We'll stop executing this block of the code and we will print out that this is the end of the app. So let me quickly run the program to see how it looks like. So as you can see, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We don't have 5 because when iterator got 5 as a value, this condition wasn't met. So this part of the code wasn't executed and while loop has stopped. So we reached this part of the code and that's why we see that this is the end of the app. So this is basically an example how we can use while loop. We can achieve exactly the same behavior by using other loops such as do while loop. So let me quickly copy this part of the code and we can say that, let's say do while iterator is less than 5, and we want to do exactly the same as we did above. So I'll comment out this part of the code because we don't need it anymore. The difference between while and do while loop is that do while loop will be executed at least once because we are checking if this condition is met after executing this particular block of the code. So if I run the application again, we'll be able to see that we got exactly the same output as it was before, because we are using exactly the same code and we are iterating five times and we are printing out the values. So that could be example of do while loop, but let's say that we want to use for. We can use for loops when we know how many times we want to execute particular part of the code. So we have 3 statements in for iteration. We need to initialize the iterator. We can do that by saying something like this: integer iterator is equal to 0. We need condition. So if iterator is less than 5, and we need to increment that iterator. So this part of the code will be executed after each execution. This is the condition that has to be met in order to execute that part of the code. So this is the part where we initialize the iterator. So I can quickly copy this part of the code. But now, as you can see, we are already doing this part of the code over there. So we don't need it anymore. So if I run the application, we are expecting to see exactly the same behavior. So we got 0 because we are printing out the iterator instead of our new iterator, which was initialized as part of the for loop. So if I run it again, we are seeing exactly the same behavior as it was with while and do while loops. Let me quickly declare the array of integers, which is called array, and let's initialize that array with some values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should be enough. And let's say that we have thousands of elements and that we want to increase value of each element by 1. So we can achieve something like that by saying that array of 0 is incremented by 1, array of 1, and so on. This is not very practical solution, and there is a better way to achieve something like that. We can use for loop, for example. We need to initialize the iterator to 0. We can say we need to specify the condition, and we can say that while iterator is less than array.length, and we need to increment that iterator. So this is first part of the for statement. There are 3 statements. This is the first one, which is used for to initialize the value of iterator. Second one is the condition, which will be checked. And the third part is the part when we increase the actual value of that iterator. So we can say that array of iterator is equal to array of iterator plus 1. We could replace this part of the code by something like this, but it doesn't matter at the moment. And also we want to print out the value of array, value of each element of the array. So if I quickly run the application, we can see that we now got, let me quickly comment out this part of the code because we don't need that anymore. And if I run the application over again, we are now seeing that we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a result. We successfully increased each element of the array by 1 by using for loop. We explained different loops that we have. That will be pretty much it, and see you in the next one.